UNESCO, as you would realize by now, is very a humongous organization, huge in its activity. And therefore, for small island developing states to undertake initiative of this nature is really appreciated and should be applauded.
Everybody uses sustainable development, the term nowadays, and what it really means. But it means something different for the people in St. Kitts than what it means for the people in Jamaica. So it's not a concept that we can just take over, and we need to translate it to the local realities. And that this is what the biosphere reserves are about. It's how we do this locally.
As a villager, I've been exposed to the river for many years. And as a Rasta, it's been utilized very much in our lifestyle. And there were times when I realized that coming from the mountains, and the river is running hard, so hard that so many gallons of water is running that you wonder where it comes from. Sometimes there's not no amount of rain. And I've recognized that every time such amount of water runs, it comes from an aquifer in the river itself that releases all that water and then it shuts off. So I, for one, would like to see some work done on that river and enlighten the knowledge that it flows to the sea.
Over the past couple of years, the St. Kitts and Nevis National Commission for UNESCO and other stakeholders were in the process of nominating the Keys Beach area, now called the St. Mary's Biosphere Reserve, as a UNESCO Man and the Biosphere Reserve. As a result, the International Coordinating Council of UNESCO Man and the Biosphere Program, at its 23rd session held in Germany in July 2011, approved the proposed Biosphere Reserve in St. Kitts, where the Keys Beach area is now inscribed and designated for inclusion in the World Network of the Man and the Biosphere Program. Essentially, the MAP program increases people's ability to efficiently manage the natural resources for the well-being of both human population and the environment. And that is what the Man and the Biosphere Program is all about in a nutshell. Let me say here at this time that presently there are several activities that are happening on our site at the moment, especially the turtle monitoring activities, as well as sand mining, horseback riding, sea moss harvesting, and quite a few other activities presently are happening. The idea is to harmonize all of these activities, manage these activities accordingly in a very sustainable way in order for the people in the community and in the country to benefit accordingly.
Very impressed with the scale and the diversity of representatives here. It's already a very, very good start. It's very much enshrined in the culture of the Man and Biosphere initiative that this should be a community level and integrated activity. So it's very heartening for somebody like myself who represents St. Kitts and Nevis as your permanent delegate to UNESCO in Paris to see the proof of the diversity of stakeholders in this very important activity going forward. The Man and Biosphere initiative, I think, must be seen in the context of unprecedented challenges and indeed potential adaptation strategies facing small island developing states like St. Kitts and Nevis. In an increasingly globalized and interconnected world characterized by climate and financial crisis, small islands, and we don't need reminding of this, are pretty much at risk. whether it be from unpredictable and severe weather patterns, or rising sea levels, or due to geographical remoteness or economic vulnerability. However, small island societies, it's been shown through research done by UNESCO and UNEP, have a record of actually thriving and adapting in these very challenging times. Now, St. Kitts and Nevis, through the MAB initiative, can now take this adaptation exercise a few important steps forward as a result of the designation of St. Mary's MAB reserve, thus enabling us to create a multi-stakeholder driven approach to small island sustainable living. It's very important. But let me just say a few words now about the background, the scope, and some of the added value characteristics of the UNESCO Man and Biosphere program of work. Let me firstly, however, say that with my distinguished colleague here, Mr. Antonio Maynard, the National Commission Secretary General, you should know that St. Kitts and Nevis plays a very, very productive role in UNESCO. It really does hit above its weight in many, many areas by signing up to some very important conventions such as the Heritage Protection Convention, with Brimstone Hill, of course, being the champion. But also we signed up in the last 3 years to the Anti-Doping and Sports Convention and the Underwater Cultural Development and Protection Convention as well. We've also, by the way, as recently as last March of 2011, St. Kitts and Nevis was the host for the first time ever, I think, of a ministerial conference held here in St. Kitts on climate change adaptation and mitigation. A very important, by the way, starting point for some of the activities that we're going to see through in the context of the Man and Biosphere program. The Man and Biosphere program is essentially an intergovernmental scientific program. It is intergovernmental. In other words, it is brought about as a result of legal instruments which are agreed to and endorsed and approved and ratified by member states of UNESCO, which now number something like 195 sovereign states. It was launched back in the 1970s, at the time as an interdisciplinary research-driven agenda and capacity-building mechanism which targeted ecological, social, and economic dimensions of biodiversity loss and the reduction of this loss. So it's very much anchored in science, economics, natural and economic science, to ensure that the combination of all of these factors, all these sciences, are focused on improving human livelihoods and safeguarding natural ecosystems. You'll be interested to hear that some of the sub-programs which have emerged in the last couple of years on the Man and Biosphere program touch on some very important constituencies across the world. This is not just a program that deals with big, large, developing sovereign states. It has, as part of its very focused sub-programs, island and coastal ecosystems, which has given great importance in the last decade as a result of climate change-related issues. But equally, it deals with ecosystems surrounding mountains, drylands, tropical forests, urban systems, and wetlands. So this is quite a very diverse program of work. On the ground, the implementation of this interdisciplinary work that is initiated in Paris, but very much left to the local national MAB commission to define and designate the projects that need to be taken forward. It is very much an issue then of the thematic networks and partnerships which ensure between St. Kitts and Nevis and the other 30 or 40 MAB sites across the world, that there is a constant sharing of best practice in research and monitoring, education and training, and participatory decision making, which is very much a core aspect of this activity. One of the things you will find as we evolve over the next couple of months and years is the virtues of best practice information sharing between other island MAB sites. And incidentally, before I forget it, we signed up, as Mr. Maynard said, in July, or we were designated in July of last year as a UNESCO Man and Biosphere Reserve. But in March of this year, UNESCO took another very interesting and very significant step in terms of our local concerns in setting up a worldwide network of island biosphere reserves, of which you'll be happy to hear St. Kitts was one of the first Caribbean islands to sign up to, along with other island states, but also large developed and developing states also have their islands, which are eligible for designation as MAB reserve sites. So that will even reinforce further St. Kitts and Nevis's ability to be able to generate and gender more best practice information sharing, which will help us ultimately accelerate the process in creating a leading edge MAB site in the Caribbean.
The different activities that we have going on currently within the reserve, I'm going to give you some background information on sea turtles and the Sea Turtle Monitoring Network. We're going to specifically focus on the Leatherback project because that is the main sea turtle related activity that's going on with our group on Keys Beach. We're going to discuss sustainability and the modalities we've approached trying to make sure this program is sustainable, and then we're going to discuss future plans. So first of all, for some background information on our group, the St. Kitts Sea Turtle Monitoring Network was founded in January of 2003. We are a registered NGO here in St. Kitts. We're also a registered NGO in the United States as well. We have a range of national, regional, and international collaborators, and this, as I always like to emphasize, is critical with sea turtles because our nesting leatherbacks may nest in St. Kitts, but they may travel 12,000 miles away from us to feed, to then come back 2 to 5 years later. So they're a shared resource, so we have to collaborate. We're permitted through the Department of Marine Resources. As you know, sea turtles are a fisheries resource. We cannot work without permission from the Department of Marine Resources, so we work very closely and under their direction. And our 3 primary goals as an organization are to implement a long-standing community-based conservation program that will last, to promote community awareness of the plight of sea turtles, because oftentimes we may not even know what's in our backyard, so it's important that everyone is aware of what's going on, and to provide non-consumable sources of income as a replacement for the sea turtle harvest. Those are our main goals. Here in St. Kitts, we have 3 nesting species of sea turtle. We have the hawksbill up here on the left, the green, and the leatherback. All of these turtles do nest to a certain extent within the area designated in the Biosphere Reserve. However, our primary nesting species in St. Kitts and within the reserve is going to be the leatherback sea turtle here on the bottom, who are currently nesting and keeping us up all night long right now as we speak. Leatherback sea turtles are the largest of all species of sea turtles in the world. They can reach 1,000 to 2,000 pounds as adults. These turtles that are coming up at night right now are around 800 to 1,200 pounds. They're distributed worldwide. They prefer isolated beaches adjacent to deep water. They love Keys Beach, North Friars, Beltet is another nesting area, Keys being the main nesting beach on the entire island. Females mate and nest every 2 to 5 years. So our sea turtles that are visiting us this year and nesting are coming back to us from 2 to 5 years ago when we saw them the last time. They leave us, they go forage in Canada, those type areas, and then they come back 2 to 5 years later. They feed almost entirely on jellyfish, which is an interesting diet. I think, how in the world do you get to be 1,000, 2,000 pounds eating jellyfish? But what they do. And they're listed on the IUCN Red List as critically endangered. And we throw these terms around all the time, but I want everyone to understand what that actually means for sea turtles. That means they've lost greater than or equal to 80% of their population over the past 3 generations, which for sea turtles is around 100 years. So they are in critical need of our help to make sure they do survive into the future so that our grandchildren can interact with them. So why do we care? I love sea turtles, and not everyone thinks they're cute, so I have to accept this, and I need to explain it from a different perspective. From the ecosystem perspective, leatherbacks consume jellyfish. Jellyfish consume fish larvae. When we have a major decrease in our leatherback populations, or when they're listed as critically endangered and we don't have as many of them, we also have a decrease in our fish populations because of the increase in the jellyfish population. So we have a decrease in commercial and recreational fishing. So they're very closely tied within the ecosystem. The ecotourism perspective. These are charismatic species. Everybody wants to see sea turtles for the most part. Tourists adore sea turtles. They like to go on patrols to see them. They like to see crafts that are oriented to them. They draw in a lot of attention. They're a sustainable resource. If we are protecting their habitat, which St. Kitts has made the major move of having this biosphere reserve designated, where these sea turtles will be protected. If we're protecting them, then they're going to be sustainable. They're coming in up to 12 times per one season. They're coming back to us every 2 to 5 years. You're doing tours with these turtles each time they come in. It's renewable. Also, this gives St. Kitts the opportunity to serve as a model for sea turtle ecotourism initiatives throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean.
After this important achievement in having our site inscribed on this list, one of the first tasks is to establish an official UNESCO Man in the Biosphere National Committee and management system in order to help collaborate or coordinate and manage the activities on this particular site. Hence, we're here this afternoon to conduct our first meeting and to have a symbolic launch of this committee.
Next night, right, we see evidence of, sand mining, right? So then I called Misha Alfred, right?
Yeah, he's my man.
Right, I let him know, right? Okay. What we can do, right, is have the army stakeholder at least at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's all, you know what I mean? Let them be in the sand dunes and waiting. And they're going to see who's coming because they're coming in trucks and backhoes. So
Exactly. The proactive approach includes the government getting involved and actually mining and stockpiling. And so instead of you doing it, anyone on the streets besides the government is illegal, basically. That's the approach we're going to take. But things have to be put in place for that.
exactly, but we want to catch them on the spot.
Using the whip approach, we also need to use the carrot approach, the education. I find we are very weak in terms of educating people. I just recently returned from the Sustainable Tourism Conference in Guyana, and they are doing a project which deals with replanting of mangroves along the coast in Guyana. And part of it was to get the community involved in the replanting. But a lot of it had to do with educating the persons to understand what happens once the mangroves are lost.